and added that creating a small, lifeless moon or asteroid now seemed like a more realistic goal. In this week's science news, psychology comes to a halt as weary researchers say the mind cannot possibly study itself.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. Welcome to a special episode. Special in that it is unexpected because we are here in the Keene, New Hampshire studio.
You never know what we're going to do here on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, Aria has been holding down the fort up at the Rogers Campground for the last 4 or 5 shows, I think, at this point. And
maybe even a week or so, right?
Yeah. Well, the first day they weren't able to get everything plugged in and connected, and everything was working in time. Actually, I think Mark forgot the headphones or something like that. and so then they got it going on Tuesday, and they've been on ever since, conducting daily broadcasts from the campground during the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which came to a wrap today, and it sounded like indeed it was the largest Porcupine Freedom Festival ever, with the entire park of Rogers Campground sold out.
It's so cool.
You went there last year for a few days during Fork Fest, so you got a feel for how big this campground is. It is a large
It's
place.
pretty huge, yeah.
And so at capacity, I heard there were at least 2,500 people who had actually gotten their tickets. And I think they sold like 3,000 of them or something like that. That's what I've heard through the rumor mill. I don't know. I wasn't able to leave, even though the magistrate, the person who is dictating what can and can't be done by those of us in the Crypto 6 at the lowest level in the federal courts, the magistrate judge, as she is called, did sign the modification to allow me to talk to Aria now for show-related purposes.
Well, that's good, at least for the show, because that means the technical side of things can be worked out. You can get answers to your questions about what was done and how to do it, and then also we can implement things for the future as well.
No doubt. However, the probation officer that I've been dealing with, who doesn't seem like a terrible guy, he had said that he would consider allowing me to go up to the Porcupine Freedom Festival for a day if the judge signed the order, but he ended up deciding against it, claiming that it would violate the home detention terms of my bail conditions, which state that I'm to be detained at home, but I'm supposed to be able to leave for work. So even though this would be leaving for work, apparently it's not allowed. So I don't even get to go up for an afternoon. I was willing to get up and leave the house at 6 a.m. Or whatever to get there in the morning. Still stay there. Maybe broadcast with Aria for a day, but that's not in the cards. And I suspect he's not going to change his mind by next weekend. So I have no expectation that I'll be able to visit Rogers Campground this week at all.
Authorities can't be authorities unless they exercise some of their authority.
This is true. And speaking of that, we've got the story. Well, we've got a lot of government-related news here this week, including a lot of stuff that they weren't able to cover from the Porcupine Freedom Festival because, there's a lot of interesting things and interesting people on the campground. But there's been a lot of news. Of course, John McAfee, they did touch on his death or alleged death earlier this week in a Spanish prison cell.
There's so much weirdness surrounding that, too. Like his tweets about how, hey, if I'm ever suicided, it's fake.
Yeah. Now he said that earlier. I think it was before he was even in the jail.
The tattoo that he got that says it's like $ whacked.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the tweet that he made about having his dead man switch or his dead man files in a Miami condominium on the corner of 8th and whatever it is.
I heard that was fake. I heard that tweet was fake. Why would he say where his dead man's files were? I mean, McAfee's
I don't
not a
know,
fool.
but it is ironic that specific condominium just suffered some sort of a catastrophe with 9 dead.
That's because that was a fake. That whole thing was totally fake. There was just somebody looked at his feed, at all his past tweets or whatever.
Good.
He never had tweeted that. No one ever recalled having seen a tweet like that. That was just somebody who wanted to mislead.
I've been played.
Yeah. Look, I hope he does have the dead man switch. He did talk about a dead man switch.
Yes, he did.
at one point, but he didn't say where. That would be insane to say where you put the files.
On one hand, being 75 years of age, knowing that if I were him, right, if I were in McAfee's shoes, what would the captain do? I don't know that I could physically commit suicide. Like, I don't think I have it in me to do that. Now, that being said, I know a lot of people who say that, I don't have it in me to like kill something, and then like, they get shown how to hunt and eventually they kill something. So like, I think probably people have it in them depending on their circumstance. But like, that aside, like, it's possible he just looked at things and went, well, you know what? I lived my life. I did my thing. At least this will give some people something to talk about on my way out.
Yeah, and
it's possible.
And being in prison can certainly change your viewpoint on things, right? Like, he was there since October, so more than 6 months behind bars. Now, if you've been reading his tweets, he's been tweeting from inside prison, presumably via his wife on the outside. I was
going to say, how does one tweet from inside prison?
Yeah, I presume he's just on the phone, just like Ross Ulbricht. He talks to somebody and then they relay the message to a Twitter account. And so he'd been tweeting and a lot of really kind of introspective, funny observations about being in prison. It's an interesting Twitter feed. If you've never followed John McAfee before, it's one worth scrolling through just to kind of get the...
I gave up the Twitter years ago.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. But if just to get a feel for what it's like being John McAfee in prison at the end of his life and just kind of the reflections that a man in his mid-70s has in the position that he's in, it is a very kind of introspective and interesting perspective to read. So I recommend it. And his prison tweets are sort of generally focused on just the bizarre things that go on in prison, some of the interactions he has, and just the hilariously bizarre interactions he has with the other inmates, and how he kind of feels about his life. And he didn't seem regretful. In fact, he just tweeted I think within a week or so before his death that he regrets nothing in his life.
I saw that one.
Yeah, very interesting guy. I mean, he's always been an interesting guy, and having that perspective has been... The one thing that I think is interesting about this is that McAfee presumably should have gone to trial, even if the odds were stacked against him, just to really call out the state.
Yeah.
You are at the end of your life, so you really don't have anything to lose in that particular case. But it could very well be that he just didn't want to be in their hands, that he did not want to be lost in the tombs of the federal system, the federal prison system, and in their clutches. And maybe he just decided, you know what? I'd rather not set any precedent with this case. I'd rather not, be subjected to whatever they're going to subject me to, and took himself out.
There was a period of time where there was no official word other than it seems that he has committed suicide. There wasn't any he hung himself with a rope or whatever.
They are saying now it was a hanging.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was concerning to me that none of the details surrounding the alleged suicide, were released in any way, shape, or form to the press or the public, that kind of a thing. And usually when that happens, that just kind of smells to me,
oh yeah,
if it was a suicide and it was, a open and shut case, so to speak, why hold back the information?
Yeah. If you want to weigh in on this, by the way, we are back to the old 603 number here, so feel free to dial in at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In other news related to people in prison who don't belong there, Julian Assange.
Yeah.
There's an update in his case. Now, if you haven't been following it closely, of course, Assange was he went into the Ecuadorian embassy in London not quite a decade ago. I think it's like 8 or 9 years ago at this point. And then about 2 years back, he was handed over to the UK government, the US government gang. They want Assange for spying or something like that. I forget the exact charges. We'll bring those up here in just a moment. But the UK government, sort of at the behest of the US government, put Assange in a prison, Belmarsh prison there, which is like a maximum security lockup. And he's been facing extradition. There was a hearing about that back in January of this year, which went well for Assange, surprisingly, where the judge in the case basically said, well, the U.S. has proved its case for extradition. However, I'm denying extradition because the U.S. can't stop him from killing himself.
Oh, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
And that was the reason for the denial of the extradition. However, he wasn't released because the U.S. then appealed the decision.
Right.
So he's still behind bars, and now there's a revelation in the case. We'll share that with you coming up. You can join us here on this live Sunday edition of Free Talk Live.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in changing that. When Rear Admiral Terrence Murphy is given governorship of a backwater system, a risk-free path to wealth and power is his for the taking. But Murphy is a man of honor, duty, and responsibility. He intends to stop the killing, whatever the cost. Governor, by David Weber and Richard Fox, from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power. But there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The number, if you want to join us here, the live Sunday show, 603-283-6160. Now, if you've been enjoying the Porcupine Freedom Festival and Fork Fest broadcasts, those are expected to resume. Aria needed some time off today to do her laundry. and take care of the dog.
I'm doing laundry.
Which is fine. Today's like kind of the move out day for the Porcupine Freedom Festival, so some number of people on the campground, probably a good chunk of them, are packing up. They're heading home, and Fork Fest officially begins tomorrow. Now, of course, there is no official with Fork Fest, but as far as the dates we've been promoting on the air for the last year or so, Fork Fest is the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Now, Aria and Mark earlier this week were saying that it was Fork Fest this last week. Look, you can say whenever Fork Fest is. Fork Fest can be all summer if you wanted to. I mean,
sure could.
Have at it. But the reason why, at least in my opinion, Fork Fest is the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival is because that's the only time when it's only Fork Fest. Like there's no two festivals going on at the same time. Correct. It's Fork Fest and that's it. Now there is the fireworks that happens on the weekend, which also attracts a crowd of people who aren't related to Fork Fest. So there is some mixing that goes on. Which is one of the things I really like about Fork Fest is that we get to encounter other people,
normies.
Who I don't like that term, but
I know I don't either.
Use it. People who may or may not be on board with the ideas of freedom, although a lot of them, I suspect, can understand them because they're New Hampshire people, Granite Staters, and there's a large number of sort of native libertarianism.
Live free or die.
In New Hampshire. Whether they can put it into words in a principle or not is another question. But there's a native feel. There's a native feeling for freedom up here, and that's a good thing. So that's one of the things that's neat about Fork Fest, and it's one of the reasons I wish I could go on at the very least Saturday to see the fireworks show because it was pretty fantastic last year. I think you were there for it, right?
I had zero expectations for the fireworks because I'm thinking, okay, small time campground. And by small time, I don't like it's a large campground. It's a huge campground.
Right.
I don't want to understate it at all, but it seems like a mom and pop operation. The guy,
it is.
The guy, he's the guy.
He's 85 years old.
He drives around the campground all day long and talks to people and says hello and that kind of a thing. So I had no expectations for the fireworks and it was pretty good.
It was.
I was impressed.
It was my first year seeing it too last year because Fork Fest had previously been the week before the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and then a bunch of old school Fork Festers agreed, hey, let's move it after, and I think that was the right move.
Yeah,
it allows people to kind of stay on after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, like, hey, you want another week of hanging out with freedom people? Come on.
I'm no fan of federal holidays, but I do enjoy that it does cover Independence Day because anybody who sort of believes in the old school American fable of freedom. We're the land of the free, right?
And it is a fable.
It is a fable, but anybody who leans that way and they're receptive to the philosophy of freedom. And those are probably the people that can triage away from statism much quicker than anybody else for that matter, in my opinion.
So if you want to join us here on the air, because you can't call in during an actual Fork Fest episode. We're not there, though. You're going this later this week. You're going to go up on, you'll be there for sure on Thursday.
Friday, Saturday. I'll probably be there Wednesday at some time, but late. So,
but you'll probably be on the show on Thursday and so on.
That's the plan.
But so you can't call in because we pre-record those shows. So if you want to join us, if you've been itching to talk about a thing on the radio, our phones are open as they always are. 603-283-6160. We've been discussing important freedom-oriented people, sort of freedom heroes, I guess, if you will, that are behind bars. And we talked about John McAfee. Now the other big one of the other big ones, is Julian Assange. Now, as I pointed out before, earlier this year, there was a big decision that was made in his extradition case. He's been sitting in prison waiting for an extradition hearing for almost 2 years in the UK. And that doesn't include the 8 years he was sitting in the Ecuadorian embassy trying to avoid being picked up by the UK so-called authorities. So that decision was made, and it was made in his favor. Hey, you are not to be extradited, not because the U.S. hasn't proved that you should be. They said that the U.S. has made all the arguments they need to make, and we should extradite you, but we don't think that they can prevent you from killing yourself.
or being, quote, Epsteined, unquote.
Yeah, so therefore, because the U.S. system is not to our, approval of being able to prevent you from suicide, you'll be staying in the UK. You win, basically, except the U.S. gets to appeal, and so while they're appealing, we're going to go ahead and keep holding you in prison. How long does the appeal take? Who knows?
Could take forever.
Meanwhile, the story here from Stunden.is, and I believe WikiLeaks, WikiLeaks official Twitter profile links to this article. So this is WikiLeaks approved. And as you may know, Julian Assange is the founder of WikiLeaks. A major witness in the United States Department of Justice case, that's the same people that are prosecuting the Crypto 6, by the way, Department of Justice, against Julian Assange, has admitted to fabricating key accusations in the indictment against the WikiLeaks founder. The witness, who has a documented history with sociopathy, has received several convictions for sexual abuse of minors and wide-ranging financial fraud. Made the admission in a newly published interview in Stunden, where he also confessed to having continued his crime spree whilst working with the Department of Justice and FBI.
Wait, who is this person?
We'll get to his name. And receiving a promise of immunity from prosecution.
What is his job or title or something?
The man in question is Sigurdur Ingi Thordarson. He was recruited by U.S. authorities to build a case against Assange after misleading them to believe that he was previously a close associate of Assange's. In fact, he had volunteered on a limited basis to raise money for WikiLeaks in 2010, but was found to have used that opportunity to embezzle more than $50,000 from the organization. Julian Assange was visiting Thordarson's home country of Iceland around this time due to his work with Icelandic media and members of parliament in preparing Icelandic Modern Media Initiative, a press freedom project that produced a parliamentary resolution supporting whistleblowers and investigative journalism. The U.S. is currently seeking his extradition, that is, Assange's extradition from the U.K., in order to try him for espionage relating to the release of leaked classified documents. Remember, it had to do with Chelsea Manning. If convicted, he could face up to 175 years in prison. Essentially, if I recall correctly, they're accusing him of offering to help Chelsea Manning crack into some documents. So Chelsea Manning had done the actual theft of the documents, which, of course, I think should be legal because Chelsea Manning did, a hero's work of actually showing people what the U.S. military was doing, like, killing innocent people over in the Middle East. But that aside, even if you were to accept that Chelsea Manning should be prosecuted for what she did when she was Bradley Manning back then.
I don't accept that.
Just if you did, then she was the one who stole those things, not Julian Assange.
Right.
He didn't even live in the United States.
Right.
How can you be prosecuted for espionage or espionage-related crimes?
State is going to state. Yeah. I also find it insanely ridiculous that people don't even question things like 175-year sentence. Like, this is the most ridiculous thing, that like a sentence longer than 2 human lifespans, can even be assigned via the state.
Well, this is the big crime. I mean, committing murder is no big deal, as we'll find out here in comparison in a moment. Public murder, in fact. Yeah. We'll get into that. 603-283-6160. You can join us.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agorist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agoristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agorist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agoristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agoristhosting.com.
Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. 603-283-6160. You can also call us via SIP. I'm not going to explain to you what that is, but there is an explanation on our website. So if you go to freetalklive.com, just read that first article there. It'll give you a step-by-step on how to call in via the internet. So if you're somewhere elsewhere in the world, or anywhere for that matter, and you want to just have a nice sound quality, but be a nice comparison to a regular phone line, that's a great option. So far, no one has availed themselves of it successfully, so it's not easy to do.
I suspect there's, having worked in telephony for quite some time, there's some things that, even after having spent as much time as I have in that field, I don't get and I don't understand. So I suspect that there's few people that both get how to do SIP, but then also listen to the show.
That's why I wrote instructions over at freetalklive.com.
You're a good man.
Now, also, you need to know about Bitcoin.com. Bitcoin.com is a longtime sponsor here on Free Talk Live. That is the place where you can go if you're ready to take a little bit of time to learn about cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Some people would say Bitcoin is on sale right now, having hit a high, a record
totally
high.
On sale, man.
Yeah, earlier this year, record high over $60,000 per Bitcoin. Right now, it's about $34,000 as of, an hour or so before the show. I haven't checked since then. But it's nice to be able to actually check the Bitcoin price again, even though I can't buy any or sell any, but I can look at it.
See the price anyway.
Yeah. Apparently Aria can't even do that, but yet she can leave her house and go to the campground, and I can't. So it's ridiculous. Bitcoin.com. You can click Get Started at the top of the page, and spend just 10 minutes and watch a 3-minute long introductory video. Maybe watch the next one. There's a few of them. There's a series of introductory videos that'll kind of give you the basics about what Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash are, and you can go to bitcoin.com to learn that. Now, if you're not brand new, go to news.bitcoin.com anytime you want. You get the latest news headlines about the world of cryptocurrency. So
while we're talking about Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and all that kind of stuff, a lot of folks are like, "Oh, this is the end for Bitcoin," and I'm like, "No."
What?
No.
What? Because it went down?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's going down to 20 grand and probably to zero or whatever, right?
I hope it does.
I'm like, it's not going to do either of those things, and here's why I believe this. Now, this is a belief that I have, so I'm not basing this on any factual thing. Well, I'm kind of basing it on factual things. It's that since the dip. Right, the
most recent dip
that
there's been a bunch of dips.
The current dip that we're in, because it went from whatever it was 60,000 down to we'll say 30, and it's just kind of stayed there for a while. This is traditional within Bitcoin, BTC at least over the years, where like during the summertime it has a dip, and then it'll come back up and fall, winter, and maybe there'll be some spikes here and there. But we've seen this behavior before.
Sometimes it takes years to come back.
Okay,
I mean, it took
fine.
like 3 years after the 2017 dip.
But that has nothing to do with why I think the dip is a part-time thing. And I don't think it's going to go lower than 30. Because we've seen adoption increase over the same period of time.
Yes, yeah.
Since the dip. And so that only bodes well for cryptocurrency as a whole.
Yeah, I think so.
Banks are now allowed to do things with cryptocurrency that they weren't allowed to do before, at least within the U.S. I don't know if that's globally affecting or not. I have something on that I can pull up if we need it.
If we get the chance
for the show. But we've seen a whole country say, "Hey, we're going to make it legal tender."
We didn't get a chance to talk about that either. That was pretty big
This
news.
is all new stuff. And so adoption is increasing. More and more people are beginning to either invest or accept it or transact in it than ever before. And so if you think that is contributing to the decline of the value of this particular technology, you're wrong.
I'm with you. We can come back to Bitcoin for sure, because I'm glad you brought up the whole El Salvador adoption thing. That is a very interesting situation, one that deserves to be kind of dissected to some extent. But right now, we're looking at Julian Assange. If you want to weigh in, you can, 603-283-6168. You can bring up anything you want. That's the point here on Free Talk Live. But Assange facing, more than the rest of his life in prison if convicted of espionage-related charges in the United States. According to Stunden.is, which is linked to over by the WikiLeaks Twitter channel, if convicted, he could face a long time in prison. The indictment has sparked fears for press freedoms in the United States and beyond, and prompted strong statements of support of Assange from Amnesty International, Reporters Without Borders. I would also add Edward Snowden, a lot of people, the editorial staff of the Washington Post, and others. U.S. officials presented an updated version of an indictment against him to a magistrate court in London last summer. The veracity of the information contained therein is now directly contradicted by the main witness, on whose testimony it is based. The court documents refer to Mr. Thordarson simply as teenager, a reference to his youthful appearance rather than true age. He's 28 years old. And Iceland as NATO country number 1, but make no real effort to hide the identity of either. They purport to show that Assange instructed this man to commit computer intrusions or hacking in Iceland. The aim of this addition to the indictment was apparently to shore up and support the conspiracy charge against Assange in relation to his interactions with Chelsea Manning. Those occurred around the same time he resided in Iceland, and the authors of the indictment said they felt they could strengthen their case by alleging he was involved in illegal activity there as well. This activity was said to include attempts to hack into the computers of members of parliament and record their conversations. In fact, Thordarson now admits to Stunden that Assange never asked him to hack or access phone recordings of the members of parliament.
Surprise!
His new claim is he had in fact received some files from a third party who claimed to have recorded the members of parliament and had offered to share them with Assange without having any idea what they actually contained. He claims he never checked the contents of the files, or even if they contained audio recordings as his third-party source suggested. He further admits the claim that Assange had instructed or asked him to access computers in order to find any recordings is false. So he said one thing, allegedly, now he's saying another, meaning that his whole testimony should be thrown out as completely useless and full of holes. Nonetheless, the tactics employed by the U.S. officials appear to have been successful, as can be gleaned from the ruling of the magistrate judge Vanessa Bareitzer on January 4th of this year. That's what I was referring to earlier, where she ruled against extradition. She did so purely on humanitarian grounds relating to Assange's health concerns, suicide risk, and the conditions he would face in U.S. confinement. With regards to the actual accusations made in the indictment, she sided with the arguments of the American legal team, including citing specific examples from Iceland, which are now seriously called into question, and her decision is being appealed. Other misleading elements can be found in the indictment and later reflected in her judgment based on Thordarson's now admitted lies. One's a reference to Icelandic bank documents. The magistrate court judgment reads, quote, "It is alleged that Mr. Assange and teenager failed a joint attempt to decrypt a file stolen from NATO country number 1 bank." Thordarson admits to the website that this actually refers to a well-publicized event in which an encrypted file was leaked from an Icelandic bank and assumed to contain information about defaulted loans provided by the Icelandic Landsbanki. The bank went under in the fall of 2008, along with other financial institutions, plunging the country into a severe economic crisis. And the file was, at this time in the summer of 2010, shared by many online who attempted to decrypt it in the public interest, purpose of revealing what precipitated the financial crisis. Nothing supports the claim this file was stolen per se, as it was assumed to have been distributed by whistleblowers from inside the failed bank. More deceptive language emerges in the aforementioned judgment where it states, quote, "He, Assange, used the unauthorized access given to him by a source to access a government website of NATO country number 1 used to track police vehicles. This deception leaves out an important element, one that Thordarson clarifies in his interview with Stundin. The login information was in fact his own and not obtained through any nefarious means. In fact, he now admits he had been given this access as a matter of routine due to his work as a first responder while volunteering for a search and rescue team. He says Assange never asked for any such access." The story goes on, and I will link to it on our social media. So if you go to social.freetalklive.com, I just wanted to give you a taste of some of the retractions by this man who was...
It sounds like a whole bunch of BS went down. And if a guy is lying to any legal system, I don't care what country you're in, he's either got an ulterior motive or he's getting paid.
Yeah, and there's a lot more deception that this story goes into. If you are interested in the Assange case, check this out. Social.freetalklive.com. If you sign up there, you'll follow the Free Talk Live account automatically, and you'll be able to see the whole story. There's more coming up here, 603-283-6160. We can talk crypto. We can talk whatever's on your mind. This is Free Talk Live.
On March 16th this year, government task forces violently raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested. 4 were released on bail conditions, but Ian Freeman was held hostage for 69 days. Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, remains captive. We've consulted attorneys who say no crime even appears to have been committed, but that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, resulting in a violation of our and your First Amendment rights. You can visit thecrypto6.com to help, but as importantly, contact other media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for cryptocurrency use well into your future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us. All you got to do is dial in here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And then all of a sudden, the phone's lit up. We have 3 calls on the line.
It's like Christmas in a recording studio.
Yeah, plenty of people want to talk here. We're going to get you on the air. It doesn't matter what your topic is. You can talk about Julian Assange, John McAfee, somebody else that you care about that's in prison, whatever. There's all kinds of innocent, peaceful people behind bars in the United States and elsewhere in the world. In fact, one of the other stories that's prison-related is the Chinese Uyghurs that have been abducted in China. Yeah. Now YouTube
having their organs harvested and all sorts of brutal things.
Yeah, now YouTube is apparently taking down critical channels that are critical of the Chinese government. So, I mean, there's so much to talk about here tonight, and we'll see what we can do in
cryptocurrency. Why can't these publishers just learn to be publishers?
We can talk about all those things, but let's go to your calls and thoughts. Oh, and I also want to make sure that you are aware that you can still go to forkfest.party. You can still learn more about ForkFest.
Still go to ForkFest.
You can still go to ForkFest, even if you can't show up for the whole week. Target the weekend.
Leave now, leave tomorrow, leave on Wednesday.
It's a great excuse to come up and celebrate Independence Day with what independence we have that remains, with people that actually care about it over at forkfest.party. That's going on this week. Check that out. Let's go to your phone calls and thoughts. We're going first to Ed. Ed, you're on the line calling from New Mexico, listening to Kiva in Albuquerque.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes.
John McAfee he was looking into the Bahamas side of the Epstein thing, and he had evidence on a couple of Bahamian officials and also some CIA operatives
allegedly
who had been working with Epstein. Okay, he named these people, and he had evidence put aside. His insurance was paid. He was being shuffled back and forth between a rendition site in Spain and a Spanish jail.
Really?
And they were working on him, trying to get information out of him as to where he put his stuff, and who he left it with. And apparently he didn't do to suit them, so they as you say, they Epsteined him. So the old Arkansas thing, you know.
Arkansas meaning like the Clintons?
Arkansas did, yes.
Yeah.
What did John McAfee have on Hillary Clinton?
I think what John McAfee had to do with Bill Clinton and Epstein and all the finances and stuff. Epstein was a money launderer.
I did not have sexual relations with minors on an island. It's a very poor Bill Clinton.
He only flew there on the Lolita Express.
Many times.
Yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, you know, McAfee didn't kill himself. You know, he left lots of messages saying, if I get whacked, I didn't do it.
He did.
Yeah,
he did, explicitly.
McAfee did not uninstall himself. I agree.
Yeah, Ed, thanks for calling and sharing your thoughts tonight. I appreciate it. The number here is 603-283-6160. You can get on our brand new phone lines here with our new phone system, which has been sounding great, by the way. It's much better than it's ever been. Let's continue with Robert. He's in Vermont calling us. Are you on the road, Robert? You heading up to Fork Fest?
No, I didn't go this year because I've been having some vehicle troubles.
Darn it.
Yeah, I don't dare to go. I don't dare to go too far away. I don't want to get, stranded somewhere in some back road.
Yeah, I heard you. All right, so what's on your mind tonight?
Hey, so I wanted to make some people aware. I have a lot of friends that are in the Free State Project, and a lot of my friends listen to Free Talk Live. There's excuse me, I just drank a glass of water here, so.
All right.
I'm kind of getting a little bit ahead of myself, but there's some mosquitoes that are in the state of New Hampshire, and they're carrying the virus that's called Jonestown Canyon. And
that doesn't sound like fun.
I don't have a computer or anything in front of me, but people are really gonna want to know about this, and keep the mosquitoes off you. And this is what I'm told. It's in New Hampshire. It's in Bow. It's what I've heard, what I've been told.
Well, it's generally a good idea to keep mosquitoes off of you. It's a bit of a challenge, however. I mean, these things have been known to carry all manner of nasty things along with them because, well, they're basically like sharing a needle, to some extent, right?
They're like politicians. They're bloodsuckers.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Robert, thanks for the call tonight, man. I appreciate it. Let's go to Jet. He's on the line in Kentucky tonight. Jet, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I was listening to all this stuff. I wanted to mention that the way I feel about it is that a lot of these people you're talking about tonight are what I refer to as political prisoners. Mm-hmm. They're in disagreement with some particular regime or dictator or something like that. And I think that needs to be emphasized over and over, that there's not a real victim to any of these things.
That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, certainly there wasn't any victim with Julian Assange. He didn't cause any harm to any person or property. Near as I can tell, he's being persecuted for being a publisher.
Right. McAfee was being accused of quote-unquote tax evasion. Right. So, I mean, he's a hero. He's, trying to keep what he earned. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Tax evasion as though taxation is somehow moral.
Yeah. Anyway, it's like, is it a crime to keep money from an armed robber? Because that's ultimately what tax evasion is. They are an armed criminal gang trying to extract your life from you.
Tax evasion is when you don't allow them to rob you.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Keeping money from a robber, not telling them where all your money is, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, I've called and I've talked about not using the word government, but I'll throw this out one more time because I think it's really important. If we want to nullify this concept, I was thinking rather than every time you think of the word, replace it with, let's say, the present regime, like the Biden goon squads or the Biden regime. You see what I'm saying there?
Yeah, I've found a clip in my usage of the word "the empire."
yeah, whatever. But put Biden's name on it because he's the current one, or the next one that comes along. Put that on there.
I don't like to do that. I stopped doing that right around Obama, right? Because I had a cool nickname for him, Obama, right?
Right.
But I stopped pointing out, the puppet head of this thing because people think it's going to be different when the face changes, and it never is. So I like to emphasize that it's like you say, the concept, or as I like to say, the organization type as a whole, which is wrong. It doesn't matter who's in the chair; it's the chair itself that needs to go.
I think the spear, though, is going to be a little bit sharper if you use that person's name. Now you might get in trouble deeper. I mean, they might come after you and stuff like that. I mean,
they've already done that.
Involved.
Surprise!
I know, but yeah, they're just they're the only thing that they're doing is they're just acting like any other dictatorship or some other type of royalty, or someone who believes that they get to tell everybody what to do, even though under the guise of freedom. But that's all I had for you.
Thanks, Jet.
The other thing.
Yep, go ahead.
It is Sunday, so I just wanted to pass along that anyone who believes, biblically speaking, that they are to be obedient to the government, I should give them a number. I can walk them through that, and if I can't convince them in about 10 minutes, then it's useless. But
was Jesus obedient to the government?
No,
I thought he was a table flipper.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when he stood in front of Pilate, Pilate accused him of these things. He said, "Well, that's what you say," and he said, "I don't know." He just everything he did and said is so contrary to being obedient to the government. I mean, as a matter of fact, who killed him?
Exactly. Thank you for the call tonight, Jet. I appreciate it. Reminds me of the old Snake Plissken meeting in Escape from New York.
Somebody pointed out to me the other day the whole bit about, Jesus died and then came back from the dead 3 days later. And so they're like, well, what did Jesus actually sacrifice for your sins? His weekend. Jesus gave up his weekend for your sins.
So our number here is 603-283-6160. You can bring up anything that you want. Let's talk about another evil state, because it is disobedience against the state.
As if there's one that's not evil.
Yeah, they all are. There's the difference in degrees. That's all it is. The difference in degrees. There's not a whole lot of degrees difference between some of these governments, including places like China and North Korea. I mean, the U.S. government gang wants you to believe they're so much better than China. But I don't know.
It's all the same. Just another empty suit with a different name.
The United States actually has more of its people, I think on a per capita basis, probably not on raw numbers, but per capita locked up than probably China does.
Oh, yeah, I believe they're number one in the world.
Yeah. Now, the Uyghurs are a whole other situation. We'll talk about that and what's going on there. Your calls and thoughts are welcome in hour number 2, which is on the way.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Impatience growing. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News. Rescuers at the site of the collapsed Florida beachfront condo tower are trying to reassure family members they're doing as much as they can to find survivors, but they say the work must be done carefully. Miami-Dade Mayor Daniela Levine Cava earlier today.
We're cutting a deep trench to assist us. It's now 125 feet in length. Into the pile, it's 20 feet wide and 40 feet deep. Now, this trench is very critical to the continuation of the search and rescue process.
The mayor confirmed 9 deaths, but more than 150 people are still missing. A bipartisan deal to invest nearly $1 trillion in the nation's infrastructure appears to still be intact. West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin on ABC's This Week.
This is the largest infrastructure package in the history of the United States of America. And President Biden, there's no doubt in my mind, never has been a doubt in my mind, that he is anxious for this bill to pass and for him to sign it.
President Biden on Saturday issued a clarification saying the bill is not linked to a much larger Democratic proposal, despite earlier comments suggesting they are coupled. U.S. officials say Israeli Foreign Minister Yair Lapid and Secretary of State Antony Blinken had a very positive meeting when they were in Rome today, but Lapid said Israel has serious reservations about the Iran nuclear deal that's being put together in Vienna. A 39-year-old man has been released from a hospital after he was severely injured by a great white shark.
This happened at Graywell Cove State Beach, just south of San Francisco. Fortunately, he was still able to swim back to land, even though he was bleeding. This is at least the 4th shark attack in the U.S. just this month alone. The other 3 happened off the coast of Florida, and all of the victims survived.
Fox's Christina Coleman. America is listening to Fox News.
School's out for summer, but if your business is running QuickBooks, you'll never get a break. NetSuite by Oracle is the #1 cloud financial system, no matter how big your business grows. With visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, e-commerce, and more, NetSuite is everything you need to grow all in one place. NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind financing program to those ready to graduate.
Head to netsuite.com/Fox right now. netsuite.com/Fox.
There's been another extension on the ban of evictions by the CDC.
The CDC extended the evictions moratorium until July 31st. The moratorium was put in place to prevent further spread of COVID-19 by people who were put out on the streets and into shelters. The Department of Housing and Urban Development says by the end of March, almost 6.5 million Americans were behind on their rent. The Census Bureau says as of June 7th, more than 3 million people were facing eviction in the next 2 months. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
As crime continues to surge in many major cities, Kansas City Democratic Mayor Quentin Lucas tells Fox News Sunday he believes there are several reasons.
I think there are a few different sources, but one of them very clearly was a lot of the efforts we had on prevention and intervention we were unable to do during the year of COVID. We had so many youth programs. We had opportunities for people to actually, who are coming back from prison, to get involved in jobs, all types of other things. And those really went downhill during the pandemic because we could not be together.
President Biden is urging new initiatives to address crime, including more gun measures. The British government has recovered some sensitive military papers that have been lost.
It sounds like a sloppy spy novel, but it's for real. A cache of sensitive documents loaded with details concerning the British military, Afghanistan, and Russia were found at a bus stop. An anonymous individual spotted the soggy, nearly 50-page heap behind a bench in Kent, southeast.
Excuse me, is this where I get a license to start a new business?
I wouldn't be hasty. You have to get a license to go out of business, too, you know.
Oh, well, look, I've invented this little anti-gravity machine, see?
Is that why you're walking 2 inches above the floor?
Oh, yes, it's very comfortable. It saves on shoe leather.
Yeah, well, you have to fill out these forms and report to the Human Services Department of Manpower Orientation and register with the Fair Employment Practice Commission, the Wage and Hour Division of the Employment Standards Administration, the State Sales and Income Tax Division, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Social Security Administration of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, and, of course, OSHA.
OSHA? I thought that was a little town in Wisconsin.
You'll find out. Say, floating around like that could be dangerous. Have you checked with the Consumer Product Safety Commission?
Well, not yet.
Come to think of it, you actually are flying, aren't you? Look, you need to go over to the Federal Aviation Administration and the Transportation...
It's very hard to get anything done these days if you're in business, but free enterprise built this country.
Think what could happen if we don't keep it free. A public service of this station and the Center for the Defense of Free Enterprise, Bellevue, Washington.
We just can't have people floating about unregulated, you know.
Reflecting on the persistent troubles it caused his sibling during childhood, local doctor Daniel Barrett told reporters this week about his average-looking brother, Kevin, who first inspired him to be a cosmetic surgeon.
As a kid, I remembered thinking that there was nothing I could do for Kevin. Watching someone you really love and care about suffer from a weak jawline or unsymmetrical features, it had a major impact on me.
And in this week's local news, a community theater gives the part of Blanche Dubois to Kathy Hamilton. In other news, a moviegoer manages to sneak candy past a teenage usher earning $7 an hour. A new app matches you with others in the vicinity who wasted $2.99 on the same app. And a Roman centurion crawling out of a New York City manhole cover is in for one wacky adventure. Having graciously spread my knowledge to the uneducated masses, I now return to the stately, elegant ranks of News Announcer Society. For more, keep checking theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
I've been silenced.
No, you just weren't allowed to talk yet.
I've been canceled.
603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live as we kick off the second hour of this program. A special edition of the show in the midst of Porcupine Freedom Festival number, 18 or something like that, and the 5th annual Fork Fest, which kicks off tomorrow, although some say it started last Monday, so
some say it never ended at all.
That's a good point. It just depends on who you ask. It's Ian and the captain in the studio here. Our number is available to you. We're doing a special midpoint edition. Aria needed a break.
We're bridging between the Porcupine Freedom Festival and Fork Fest.
Yes, and normally when we're all on the campground as we were last year and previous years, usually people get breaks because we have enough people that are there to where, if Aria wants to take a day off, it's no problem. I'm there. I got things covered, or vice versa.
Right.
But I'm not there. I can't be there under these insane bail conditions that I'm currently set out, which is supposedly being at liberty prior to trial, which is obviously not. And the whole Crypto 6 situation. If you don't know what that is, go to thecrypto6.com and you can check out what happened to us back in March when the FBI raided the studios here.
Still happening, arguably.
Yeah, it's still going on. And so I'm not there, and this has, for the longest time, been the event that I've been a major tentpole as far as the broadcast side of things is concerned. So Aria is now that tentpole, and frankly, she doesn't have a whole lot of other options up there. Mark was there for a couple of days, and for whatever reason, he had to go. And she's been managed to hold down the fort every day, but she needed a day off. So that's why we're here. We came in here. We're still in Keene, New Hampshire. So we're here in the normal studio. The phone lines are open as normal. The number is back to what it was, 603-283-6160. If you had the old 202 number that we had temporarily programmed in, that is gone. It will not work. So remove that from any devices that you might have programmed it into, and make sure you call us at 603-283-6160. We're going to go back to your calls. Coming up, Captain, you wanted to discuss the Derek Chauvin decision. The sentencing happened this week, and that, I believe, was not discussed on the air at all. I've been listening to the shows every night.
I think we'd be remiss to not talk about it, especially how it, seems really low, in my opinion.
We'll talk about that. But let's go to your calls and thoughts first. Robert is in South Carolina. And Robert, you're on Free Talk Live, listening to WTMA in Charleston. Hello? Oh, that was my bad. Robert, we have you now. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Jesus Christ, in other words, Rabbi Yeshua was his real name. He actually did not violate the laws. As a matter of fact, when he was asked, and his accountant, by the way, was Judas Iscariot. And in any case, when he was asked about paying taxes, Jesus Christ said, let me see the coin. And the coin had Julius Caesar's head on it. So he said, pay what to Caesar is Caesar's. That was his answer to that. In other words, do not violate the law. Also, the Jesus Christ Church of Latter-day Saints.
Well, that's one interpretation of that. It's a common, obedient interpretation of that particular phrase. And then another interpretation is that he was saying, give this crap back to these government gangsters. It's garbage.
Well, you couldn't. It was illegal. It was a legal tender because Judea was an autonomous region within the Roman Empire, and it had a governor. So it was definitely part of the Roman Empire, and Roman currency was definitely the currency of the day.
Robert, what was the bit where Jesus sort of went on a rampage and started flipping tables and that kind of thing? What happened there?
That's a totally different thing. That was a religious kind of a thing. Those guys in the back should not have been doing business in the back of the synagogue, and I agree with him on that one.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't it specifically about the tax collectors?
Not at all.
There's all kinds of things that were written out there by people saying Jesus is actually an anarchist, that he is anti-state, anti-government. But everybody's got their opinions about these things. Thanks for the call tonight. The number here, 603.
I'm not even convinced that was an actual person.
That our caller was a real person?
No,
Jesus was.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of, stuff written, but, I mean, I didn't live back then. I didn't, these are only recountings of people with no evidence, in my opinion. I haven't seen, there may have been a person on which all of these stories were based, but these stories are so convoluted over many translations and thousands of years of time. They were obviously written by human beings, not by, this man himself. So these were at best observers of behaviors of a person. So I put as much faith into all of that as I do into Scientology.
Here's a little bit from a piece,
which is 0, by the way,
over at richardodwar.wordpress.com. Was Jesus Christ an anarchist, specifically an anarcho-capitalist? Writes Odwar Odoku, which I'll link to this on our social media over at social.freetalklive.
Was capitalism even like a thought, a philosophy at that point?
Maybe it hadn't been named as such, but going into this here, I'm going to just skip ahead to part 1. Jesus' birth and death are acts of defiance to government. If Joseph and Mary had not intentionally denied King Herod the Great's will and escaped as fugitives with baby Jesus to Egypt, the story of the Savior as we know it would have been different or simply not there. Another religion would have occupied the seat Christianity occupies today. Jesus would have been mercilessly killed, and needless to say, his ministry in fulfillment of the scriptures, widely written and discussed, would never have been. To the government, Jesus was born a criminal, and he would later be killed as a common criminal. Matthew 2, 1-6 talks about the baby's crime. Quote, "Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who's been born king of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him. When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he'd gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together," that's the government, right? "He inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. So they said to him, In Bethlehem." And then going on, they said, "But you, Bethlehem in the land of Judah, are not the least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Though young, now this is back to the interpretation here, Herod considered Jesus to be a direct threat to his power. Whether his fear was justified or not, the central thesis is that he considered him a threat to the existence of the government. Herod represents the earthbound kingdom based on unholy usurpation, deception, and subjugation. Jesus represented the alternative, and because of that, he was guilty. Herod sought to exterminate him. To save Jesus' skin, the Bible introduces us to the concept of holy defiance of government, and then they quote another section of Matthew 2, 13-15, saying, quote, "Now when they had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother, flee to Egypt, and stay there until I bring you word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him." So saying specifically to avoid the government, get away from these criminal gangsters. And the final statement here, "When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed for Egypt, and was there until the death of the king, Herod, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet."
I just don't think you can prove or disprove that a mythological character was or was not anarchist. That's like saying Zeus was an anarchist.
That's why I say there's different arguments.
Medusa was really? Okay.
It's an old book, and people have different interpretations of it. So when Herod learnt the wise men had disobeyed his orders and that they had not reported back to him as instructed, he ordered the extermination of all male children in Bethlehem and surrounding areas. It sounds like something that a government would do, hoping that such an act will actually lead to the extermination of Jesus as well. So just kill every male baby out there, and maybe we'll get the one we're looking for. Never mind the barbarism of such a government. In my short years of existence, writes the author, I've read and witnessed governments doing that. The only difference is the motive for the act. History records that it was only after Herod had perished that Joseph brought his family to Egypt and to Nazareth, and only when Archelaus, Herod's son, was the king of Judea. And so, anyway, it goes on. I'll link to this on our social media. You can check it out for yourself. It's one of those things that people are going to argue about forever, but there's no doubt that he was put to death by the government, right? Jesus was crucified for speaking what they say is the truth, and the truth is the enemy of the government, says the author. And there's more where he says that Jesus commanded all to follow the golden rule, etc. We'll continue here. Our number is 603-283-6160.
Do you know why Jesus doesn't eat M&Ms?
Why?
They keep falling through the holes in his hands.
Oof.
It's my only Jesus joke. It's pretty good, though.
Yeah, if Jesus was somebody who believed in love and peace, which is how he's purported to be, then he couldn't possibly be in favor of the state.
You would think.
Yeah. 603-283-6160. You can join us here. Coming up, Derek Chauvin, the killer cop. We'll talk about what happened to him on the way.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
A newly recruited search and rescue officer, Marshall Hunter was resigned to a life of rescuing wayward spacefarers and derelict satellites. But when a billionaire couple goes missing, his own ship is disabled during the rescue. With communication satellites suddenly failing and lunar mineral shipments disappearing in transit, the crew suspects it's more than a coincidence, and Hunter must choose between salvation and sacrifice to save his crewmates and their civilian charges. Frontier by Patrick Childs and BingBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. I want to make it clear, I'm not a Christian. I just wanted to, share the opposite perspective. I'm
Sister
sure
Christian, oh, your time has come.
Unfortunately, Gene the Christian Anarchist passed away late last year, our regular Christian anarchist caller.
I know we've got a bunch of listeners that are Christian and also philosophically, anarchist, voluntarist.
And they can make a way better argument, than I can.
I don't know. To me, I stopped believing in all of that kind of stuff because I see what it does to people. It makes them, it gives people justification to act in ways they otherwise wouldn't act.
Well, the Christian anarchists tend to be pretty principled people in my experience. I wouldn't say that they're out there doing crazy, violent stuff like the government gangs are.
No, not physically, but there is a mental component to that, particularly when you're procreating and you are literally inflicting your dogma, your religion onto another human being before they can understand it. Right? It's the same thing with Santa Claus.
Hold on. Now, should parents be able to do that with their views about government?
Well, government is a religion, so nope.
So a parent,
but it gets done anyway.
So you're saying that a parent shouldn't be able to?
What I think parents should and shouldn't be able to do is irrelevant.
You don't have kids.
But also
neither do I.
I don't believe in telling other people what they should and shouldn't do. I don't have the answers. I don't have
but you're bemoaning way. You're not telling them what to do, right? But you're bemoaning.
I'm saying that it's unfair to the human being.
To inculcate them at a young age with a belief system?
Or indoctrinate them in some way.
So is it my question though? Is it unfair for them to also inculcate them with, let's say, voluntarism, as many liberty-oriented types are likely to do? If you were at Fork Fest or the Porcupine Freedom Festival, you'd see plenty of kids running around there.
I would love a society in which every human being could make up their own minds.
Mm-hmm.
How we get to that point, I don't know. I'm unclear. I don't have the secret path. I don't have the magic bullet to get us there.
I don't disagree with you, Captain, that a young person should be allowed to make a choice, as far as, look.
Or several choices.
You can do all these things.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to be a Christian today. I'm going to be a Catholic tomorrow. I'm going to be a Jew on Friday.
At some point, though, and again, I'm not a parent. You're not a parent. But we were all kids at one time. At some point, even if you're raised in a family that has no religion to inculcate a child with, let's leave out the belief in the state. Even though that is a religion, and that's a whole other conversation. Let's just talk about traditional gods. Yeah. Even if you're in that family, at some point, your kid is going to see somebody else believing in a thing. Maybe it'll be on television, or they'll have a friend or whatever, and they're going to ask you a question about it. At some point, you're going to be given the opportunity to say something, and so would you say that the answer should be, sort of explain religion in general and explain that there's a bunch of different options out there, and, we want you to be able to make a decision for yourself, so whatever our beliefs are, we didn't want to impose upon you? Is that kind of what you think?
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
If I had kids and they were asking me those questions, that seems about what I would like my response to be.
But how would you answer that when it came to their question about what is a government?
Well, so that would be a little bit different because the government is a unique entity in that it is force.
Mm-hmm.
That's
all.
So
you're saying it's okay to teach your kids not to use force against somebody else?
I think that should be a fundamental human motive.
Okay.
Is to not use force to
So you would say it's okay to teach them that the state is an evil religion and they should stay away from it?
I think they should look at the evidence and come to the conclusion themselves. Is what I think. What is government? Well, let's look at that. What is government? Where did it come from?
But there's no doubt that you, as the teacher, inevitably are going to taint the evidence with your opinion, okay?
You said taint.
There's no way you can get away. How could you possibly present what the state is to your, little child, your loved one or whatever, without putting your opinion into the discussion about, this is violence.
It would be very difficult.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Look, this is violence, and it's not okay.
I agree with you in that respect, but I also think that children will ask these questions, and sometimes the correct answer is no answer at all, right? Is to let them think about the question for a while. Let them investigate the question with, whatever means they have. I mean, we didn't have the internet when I was growing up, so I couldn't, right? Best I could do is go look stuff up in an encyclopedia that was 20 years old.
Yeah.
Or go to the library, and, find one that's 5 years old because they cycle them out every 5 years or whatever. That kind of a thing. So I didn't have this, magic rectangle in my pocket that I could suddenly answer all of my questions. I had to ponder things for a while, until I found, some evidence or whatever of whatever the question was. So these are difficult things, right? How do you teach children? How do you objectively teach children, right? How do you teach children without tainting them with your personal perspective and point of views? Most parents aren't successful at this. I would beg to differ or I would venture to think that most parents haven't even thought about how to be objective with their children and teaching them things about religion or government. Most parents, I think, just go, well, we believe this, right? And by we, they're including the child, right? We, in our family, we believe these things, and you're part of our family, so you believe these things too, is generally how it goes, or at least how it went with all of my friends growing up and that kind of a thing. If little Joey across the street, if his parents were Catholic, he was Catholic.
Well, and there's a difference between saying we believe this religious thing because we read an old book that our parents read and they were this thing. That's your typical religious upbringing, right? Is somebody's parents said a thing and so they learned it from their parents and so on, and there's no real thought to it. It's just, this is what we were told. Whereas if it's a moral question of, let's say, Derek Chauvin's, the case where, he chokes George Floyd to death, I don't think there's anything wrong with explaining a moral system to your kids, right? That's different than inheriting a book or inheriting a viewpoint from, some old religion. It's like, hey, don't hurt people, right? That's one of the basics you should teach your kids, right? Is, hey, if Johnny does something to you don't like on the playground, you don't have the right to go up and pull his hair or, beat him up or whatever. And those are important lessons to be able to teach kids, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think extrapolating that to the government, there's nothing wrong with giving them that particular opinion. I don't think.
I certainly was not given the information, the evidence, if you will, of what government was, whether it was from any variety of parental units that I had, much less any sort of school system and that kind of a thing.
Well, if you don't teach them, somebody else is gonna. That's the other problem with kids. I mean, they're constantly, absorbing information from the world around them.
I was taught all of the usual stuff, right?
Yeah.
When it came to, we're this kind of religion and our family's been this religion, blah, blah, blah. I had the weird bit where I have multiple sets of parents because of foster care and, all this kind of thing, and adoption, et cetera, and so on. So I have several different sets of parents. I was exposed to several different versions of Christianity, if you will. And they were all kind of the same, just different flavor. Our books are red instead of black or whatever. I don't know. Some subtle difference between the religions, but mostly they were just ceremony with some singing and a guy, preaching. And then when it comes to government, I was taught the same thing everybody else in the United States was, which is, we the people and we are the government and blah, blah, blah.
It would seem to be
none of that's true.
Critical to counter that information. If I were a parent, I would definitely not want them to pick that information up from society or any kind of school or whatever. I'd want them to know what government really is as early on as possible. But you can share your thoughts with us, 603-283-6160.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people like passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
Are you a sneezer? If you're not, can you get close to one? I don't literally mean someone sneezing. Sneezer, as defined by marketing guru Seth Godin, is an opinion leader. When a sneezer mentions something, other people catch what Godin calls the idea virus. Seth Godin says some people are more likely to tell their friends about a great new idea. So identifying and courting sneezers is a key success factor for idea merchants. His book, Unleashing the Idea Virus, is the most downloaded ebook in history, and you can download the whole book free. That's how he's making his idea contagious. Click tips, tricks, and other stuff to help you cut through the clutter at www.survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live.
What is your goal? What do you want of this revolution that you speak of?
You got to stir things up enough where the people will actually revolt in a big way.
And what will that result in?
Millions of people in the streets, you know, and the military guys ain't going to like it.
So what is your goal? You don't really know, do you? You don't really know what you want besides chaos.
A bloody revolution in the streets is
You
the
want a
only
bloody
way.
revolution? This is why I don't want to associate with people like you. Thank you for the call. You're dangerous and crazy, in my opinion, if you're talking about bloody revolution. Violent revolution just results in more violence in the future because the people who were the most violent are the ones that rise to power in whatever new power structure is created after the revolution's all over and done with, after the blood has spilt. Whoopee-doo, you've changed out one gang of criminals for another gang of thugs.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern. Live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM. Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live, and the number, if you want to join us here on the live Sunday show, the intermission show, if you will, in between the Porcupine Freedom Festival and Fork Fest.
Halftime.
Yep, we're here. They will be continuing, presumably beginning tomorrow, as the first day of Fork Fest unofficially starts. There's no official anything with Fork Fest. You can go to forkfest.party to learn more. It is not too late for you to get up there. They're going to be hanging out, liberty-minded folks hanging out at Rogers Campground, the largest campground in New Hampshire.
All week long.
All the way through this coming Sunday.
Yep.
So the Sunday the 4th. And a big fireworks show expected on Saturday the 3rd. You don't want to miss that. So if you can get up there for the weekend, definitely do that. I would if I could. But I'm here on bail conditions, stuck here in the studio. Otherwise, we wouldn't be live.
Are you trying to say that you're finally a use case for somebody videotaping the fireworks?
I did videotape or video record the fireworks last year.
Okay, let me follow up question. Since you did videotape them, do you ever find yourself going back and watching fireworks that you videotaped?
Who would watch video recorded fireworks?
That's my point.
Yeah, I wanted to do it because the guy actually had never had it happen before. No one had ever, done a proper recording, and I by no means was mine like the best video ever or anything like that. But I gave it my best effort. I'm not experienced at doing focus pulls on fireworks or anything like that. Autofocus isn't probably the best thing to do on that. But he was happy about it. And, that's all that mattered.
That's good.
So, and it did give, I think, people a little taste of it.
I'm really more digging at people who every year they'll, bust out their phone and videotape or their video camera and, video the tape. Listen how old I am.
Yeah.
They'll videotape. Yeah. No, they will video the fireworks. And they're usually horrible pictures and horrible videos that are so far away that it's like completely useless to watch.
Had a good camera, and a tripod. It's not like it was a terrible video. But the point was to kind of give a taste for how good the fireworks were. And that's all you can do with even a decent video of fireworks is just a taste of it. You can never reproduce the actual experience.
This is
fireworks.
Just a kick-ass public service announcement that is put down your phones and your video and enjoy the fireworks with your friends and family. Just go ahead and do that this year.
I was able to enjoy it at the same time of recording it, but mushrooms might have been partially the reason for that.
Well, you like being on a mission too, right?
So 603-283-6160 is the number here. There's an update here. Before we get into Derek Chauvin, I was just pulling up the news to see if there's anything breaking or whatever. There is an update on the McAfee alleged suicide, and that is there's now an alleged suicide note that was allegedly found on McAfee, and we don't yet know what the suicide note is claiming, but supposedly they have a suicide note. His wife, however, according to The Sun, the-sun.com, Janice McAfee, she says, I blame the U.S. authorities for this tragedy. Now, because of these politically motivated charges against him, my husband is dead. His last words to me were, quote, I love you, and I will call you in the evening, unquote.
Oh.
And then he suicided himself? Why would he tell his wife he was going to call her in the evening and then kill himself? She says these words are not words of somebody who is suicidal. She continued to rail against the suggestion he would end his own life. She said further, quote, he didn't deserve to die in a filthy prison like a caged animal. All John wanted to do was spend his remaining years fishing and drinking. He had hope that things would work out. We knew that there would be an uphill battle to continue to fight this situation.
That sounds like a good retirement, fishing and drinking. Right?
She called McAfee a fighter and that he was ready to battle against the criminal rap that he was up against. She said he would never quit this way. He would never take his own life in this way. I don't believe he did this, and I will get answers. I want answers on how this was able to happen.
Well, and my question is, where's the video?
Of his cell?
Yeah.
Not all cells are being recorded.
Why not?
Well,
what about the people who are supposed to be, on guard, guarding people? Making sure they're okay in their cells. What about those people?
I'll
Where
tell
were
you,
they at?
I don't know what Spanish jail is like, or Spanish prison. That's where he was being held. He was in Spain when they picked him up.
Just like regular prison, but with a different language.
I presume so.
More
and if
culture.
It's like,
I don't know.
And I don't know what prison's like either, Captain. I've never been in prison, thankfully. I've been in jails.
Yeah.
And the most recent jail I was in, there are suicide watch cells, which do have cameras in them. However, McAfee was not on suicide watch from what we know. If you're not on suicide watch, you're just in a regular cell in a cell block. And in many cases, that means there's not actually a camera view inside of your cell. In the cell block that I was being held in, 23-hour-a-day lockdown in Merrimack County Spiritual Retreat, there was no camera view inside my cell. There was one PTZ camera, that's a pan-tilt zoom camera, that was located in the center of the cell block,
right,
on the ceiling. And if there were any hidden cameras on that block, I wasn't able to discern them. So I'm pretty sure this was the one camera that they had, so they can spin it around and, sort of get a view of the whole cell block. But as far as what's going on in the cells, unless your cell's directly in the, side 90-degree view or whatever of that camera, then they might be able to kind of peek into your little teeny slit window and see some of your cell. But you still would have an area in your cell, even in those cells, where they still wouldn't be able to see you.
Yeah.
So, and the guards come around twice an hour. And again, that may be different in different jails and different prisons, but they do a count, what they call twice an hour, where they walk around, and sometimes they do what they call a standing head count, where they say, standing head count.
Yeah.
They yell it at the top of their lungs, and then they walk around, and if you're still in bed, they're like, get out of bed, you gotta stand up. And that's how they check and see if you're dead.
Right.
So, if you were actually in the process of dying, unless you're screaming, they're not going to know. There's only one guard on the cell block, and he's sitting away from you. And if you're not dying at the exact time that he's, walking and knocking on windows and looking through and doing the head count, they won't have any idea. So
I'm a little bit bummed about McAfee dying, because I was hoping that at some point he would write a book.
He never did?
Well, I don't know that he didn't, but I wanted one, from when he did reach retirement, looking back on his life, that sort of retrospect. The McAfee, I don't know, the McAfee Chronicles, if you will, told from his perspective, not necessarily like some other writer's perspective.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So that's the update. His wife saying he said he was going to call me later. He's a fighter. He wouldn't have done this.
It's so difficult today to believe any official account of anything.
No doubt. And this one stinks. For sure.
It sure does.
And here's another question. Is Derek Chauvin going to end up dead in prison? By his own hand or by the hands of the other prisoners?
Well, supposedly he can get out in as little as 15 years.
And he's, in his 40s right now, or late 30s or something like that?
Yeah, I want to say he's 40. I don't remember exactly.
So this is the guy in Minneapolis. For those that don't recall the name, he is the man who choked a man to death, choked George Floyd to death.
Yeah, his name was George Floyd.
On video.
Had his
for 9 minutes or whatever.
On his neck.
Yep.
And the man's life expired.
Now, most of the time when cops kill people, and it happens like 1,000 times a year in the United States, last I checked, and I believe the numbers were up last year compared to 2019. Whenever this happens, they almost always are found innocent. Their charges are dropped.
Yep.
They get a slap on the wrist, worst case, maybe a stern talking to, and then they're, in a lot of cases, given a promotion. But this case was a little different, wasn't it?
Well, in this case, they sentenced Mr. Chauvin to 22.5 years.
In this case, people actually set the police station on fire during protests last year. So the government gang had a bit of an incentive to see that something actually happened in this case. That's why they brought the charges in the first place.
Governments should fear their people. People should not fear their governments.
Yeah, so this was a little different. The reaction of the population, I think, was a huge factor in why these charges were even brought in the first place. Because most of the time, when the police investigate one of their own guys, they're like, nope. We're just washing our hands of this. It's all good.
We investigated ourselves and found that we did nothing wrong.
Everything's okay here. He did it by the book. He choked that man to death by the book, is what they would have said in any other circumstance. And if you doubt what I'm saying, go and look at all the other instances of police killing, ostensibly peaceful people. And what was the worst thing this guy was accused of doing? Passing off a fake $20 bill? That's why the cops got called? I mean, that's bad and all, but it ain't death. It's not the death penalty. 603-283-6160. More on Chauvin's sentence coming up. You can join us.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and the number if you want to join in, we're here live, the Sunday edition of the show. Number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We've actually kind of had I would say like a prison theme here tonight. We talked about John McAfee's alleged suicide, his wife now saying that he had intended to call her that evening, on which he took his own life. He had said he was going to call her back. And there's now an alleged suicide note as well. So also Julian Assange, one of the key witnesses in the U.S. government's case against him, now coming out as a liar, a proven liar. So all kinds of interesting news here. I'm glad we actually got to do this show because, like you were saying during the break there, Captain, we both been just piling up show prep. Most of which hasn't been talked about from the Porcupine Freedom Festival episodes because they're busy talking about what's going on there.
Well, and you get into the routine of doing show prep, and you don't want to, forego your routine. And so you just, keep piling it on. So that's fine. We get an opportunity here. And yes, listeners, you did hear correctly. We are doing the show live right now if you're listening.
That's right. If it's between 7 and 10 Eastern time in the evening, you're hearing us live.
Right.
So join us.
Sort of a bridge between the Pork Fest and the Fork Fest.
Yes, the intermission
festivities,
show,
if you will.
So, Captain, you were about to tell us a little bit about the Derek Chauvin sentencing. He's the cop that killed George Floyd. We can't say allegedly because looked like he did it on video, and the jury agreed.
Seems to have been convicted. So even if you personally don't agree, well, I don't know that his neck was crushing his larynx and the autopsy, this, that, and the other, right? Like, he was convicted.
Yeah.
Watch the video. I mean, the dude, I'm pretty sure you see the guy kill the other guy.
Yep.
You see Chauvin kill Floyd on video.
Yeah. And now he's been sentenced to how many years?
22 and a half.
22 and a half. Now, this, as I understand it, is just the state of Minnesota, right? That's going after him. This is not the federal government, which may also be bringing extra charges. I believe this was in a Minnesota state court that this decision was made.
This article does not detail the form of court. So I can't answer you specifically about what it was. I imagine it was.
Yeah,
I imagine
sure
there's no reason for federal government to be involved in this.
If you're
type
charged
of
with
thing.
murder, it tends to happen in state court. I don't think that there's a federal murder charge unless you're on federal property.
So this article says that this particular sentence was the longest prison term ever imposed. I'm sorry, it says is one of the longest prison terms ever imposed on a U.S. police officer in the killing of a black person. Now, 22 and a half years seems low to me for particularly a police officer murdering somebody else.
Well, obviously, it's low in comparison to things like, running a website like Ross Ulbricht did.
That's
the founder of the Silk Road, who's been sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 40 more years on top for creating a website on the internet that people use to sell things.
That arguably made drug trafficking safer than any government program ever even considered doing.
So this would be a fraction of that amount of years.
A very small fraction. And keep in mind, Mr. Ulbricht is not eligible for parole, where it appears that Mr. Chauvin will be eligible around the 15-year mark.
Yeah, and don't forget, they will likely be putting him in some level of protective confinement, meaning that he will probably not be mixing in with other prisoners. So he'll have special treatment because he's one of them. He is a cop, and they will treat him likely differently than your typical inmate or your typical prisoner. That may mean that he will have 23-hour-a-day lockdown or something like that. So he may be in solitary for much of that time because he's likely deathly afraid of being in population. That's just my guess based on, how they've treated other police, the few other police that have ever been convicted of anything.
They do a bit of self-justification here. The Floyd family members were disappointed. The sentence fell short of the 30 years prosecutors had requested. With good behavior, Chauvin, who's 45, by the way, you asked how old he was earlier.
Okay.
45, could get out on parole after serving 15 years.
Yeah.
Just because it's the most time doesn't mean it's enough time, said Nikema Levy-Armstrong, a Minneapolis protest leader. Judge Peter Cahill went beyond the 12-and-a-half-year sentence. This is the justification I was talking about. Judge Peter Cahill went beyond the 12-and-a-half-year sentence prescribed under state guidelines, citing Chauvin's abuse of a position of trust and authority and also the particular cruelty shown to Floyd. Okay, so you're going to go beyond 12-and-a-half years for a police officer who abused his position and murdered another person, but a guy who builds a website, as you said, gets double life plus 40 with no parole.
Yeah.
If this doesn't indicate to the listeners that the system is broken, then I don't know what can.
Well, the system is doing what it was designed to do, which is protect its own.
Yes.
No one wants to see that that's the case because that would make a very uncomfortable, revelation for them to say that, the police aren't actually there to protect you. The police are there to protect themselves. The court system isn't actually there to dish out justice. It's just us. They're the ones protecting the police.
The Just Us program.
Yeah.
This does go on to say, you had mentioned about the federal versus the state thing.
Yeah.
It says, Crump said this was the longest sentence a police officer has ever received in Minnesota, but is hoping Chauvin gets the maximum at his upcoming federal civil rights trial.
Okay.
So apparently there's another trial this time for civil rights for him. I'm not sure how that works. How do you get
and I don't know what the maximum will look like in that case.
How do you get 2 trials for the same crime?
Well, it's not the same crime. That would be double jeopardy in that particular case. This would be whatever the charges are of federal civil rights violations. That's not the same thing as murder charges.
Okay.
I don't know what those are.
I still don't understand. That sounds like double jeopardy to me.
Well, they just call it something different, and then it's not double jeopardy.
Yeah, okay.
You deprived this man of his rights.
Thanks, Alex.
The killing of him was aside from the question of was he deprived of his rights or his right to due process or whatever. I suspect that whatever those charges are will not have, as hefty of a sentence. But then again, as we saw with the federal government, even completely victimless crimes can like the wire fraud charges in the case against me and some of the Crypto 6 face up to 30 years per charge.
Right.
There's another charge that only I am facing that faces up to life. Yeah. Now, supposedly I can't get life due to sentencing guidelines, but there's a 10-year minimum on that one.
Yeah.
So they want to put me away for the rest of my life.
You're what, 40? So if they sentence you to 40 years, well, I mean, that might as well be.
I'm dead in prison.
Might as well be life at that point. And again, that's the ridiculousness of these sentences too. Like we just heard earlier in hour 1, we talked about a sentence of 127 years or something, and like
for Julian Assange.
Yeah, how is that even a thought? Right? Nobody lives for 127 years. Like, if they do, congratulations, but the odds of them being incarcerated at age 0 and then living to 128, pretty slim. So for any system to even consider doling out that amount of time is ridiculous.
It's just to show tough. We're tough on crime.
It's BS. I wish I could say these words, but I cannot.
But yeah, he's one of them. So, I mean, even though it's not a short amount of time, it's also, by comparison, almost nothing compared to what they've done with completely nonviolent, completely peaceful people. People who've been selling, cocaine have been sentenced to longer times in prison.
There are people. I was reading a different article, and I don't know if I put it in show prep or not, but there are people serving life sentences still for marijuana.
Oh yeah, places like Florida
still. And even in states where they've legalized it or made it made recreational legal or at least medicinal legal.
Sure, they'll nullify sentences for possession, but they're not nullifying selling.
Life for marijuana.
Yeah.
For a plant. No other convictions. In fact, I'm trying to remember the article was like the top, 30 people still incarcerated for marijuana, and a number of them had been pardoned by Orange Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In fact, as you're reading through, you're like blah blah this that the other, pardoned by Orange Man in blah 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 whatever year, and so a number of them had been pardoned, but a whole bunch of them were still in jail for life. For life.
That's right.
Life for
and you're paying for that. You're paying for that. Every taxpayer is on the hook for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year, whatever the prison cost is of an inmate right now, to keep that person alive and fed and watered. It's crazy, and they could be out being productive.
And the prison population is so enormous here in the United States of America. Yeah. It's well over 2 million. It might even be 3 million. I haven't looked at it recently. Maybe I'll do that here momentarily and see if I can find that.
There's several states that have fewer people than 2 or 3 million.
Right?
Yeah, there's 10 or at least.
Outnumbering the gulags.
Hey, we got more on the way here. You can join us, 603-283-6160. Hour 3 is coming up on Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Another administration official heads to the border. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News. HHS Secretary Javier Becerra planning a trip to the southern border this week.
Becerra will visit an emergency intake site at Fort Bliss, Texas. It's currently under the microscope for reports of poor conditions for children, some of whom are reportedly under supervision to prevent self-harm. Vice President Kamala Harris did visit El Paso, where she called out the previous administration for starting the family separation policy. Critics, however, continue to sound off about her choice of cities to visit.
Fox's Alex Hogan. Former President Trump will visit the border Wednesday with a group of House Republicans. It's been another day of sweltering temperatures in much of the West. Fox Chief Meteorologist Rick Reichmuth.
Obviously, that heat, another all-time record high across places like Seattle and Portland. Tomorrow, even hotter. And then out across parts of the East, where we've been a little bit cooler. Heat wave beginning to build. We'll be into the mid-90s across parts of the Northeast for much of this coming week.
The heat is also moving into Idaho, where the Weather Service says it will likely be one of the most extreme and prolonged heat waves in recorded history for the inland Northwest. Officials in Florida looking closer to 2018 engineers report that found issues with the condo tower that collapsed near Miami. Fox's Steve Harrigan.
Certainly some red flags there in that report. It cited some damage to the concrete, some serious damage which could threaten the safety of the people inside the building. And those repairs would cost more than $9 million. For 3 years, nothing was done on it. The board members have been accused of perhaps not doing enough or letting this report sit. But keep in mind, some of the members of that condo board are the members missing.
9 people are confirmed dead, and the number missing has gone down to 152. America is listening to Fox News.
Don't put off creating or setting up a will or trust because you think it's complex and expensive. With trustandwill.com, it's simple, convenient, and secure. For as little as $39, you can nominate guardians for your children, determine who gets your stuff, and plan for future medical care all online. Trust and Will is the most trusted name in online estate planning, having helped hundreds of thousands of people protect their families, assets, and legacy. Don't put this off any longer. Get 10% off plus free shipping at trustandwill.com/Fox.
West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin says he believes infrastructure can be improved without breaking the bank.
Senator Manchin says he calls himself fiscally responsible in his voting and how he works with both parties. On ABC's This Week, he said he believes tax cuts passed by Republicans are weighted too much toward the rich, but he's also not for passing bills that add to the debt.
We're $28.5 trillion. We cannot continue to add on things that we can't pay for. I've always said this, we're writing checks our kids can't ever cash.
Manchin says Democrats and Republicans can work together on many issues to help keep America globally competitive. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
Gasoline prices up again over the past 2 weeks, rising 2 cents to a nationwide average of $3.16 a gallon. Industry analyst Troby Lundberg expects further increases.
This period had only about 1/3 of the crude oil price hike passed through. There's some states that are hiking fuel taxes. So for a number of reasons, I think we may see another 3 to 5 cents in the next couple of weeks.
The highest average for regular grade gas is in the San Francisco Bay Area at $4.33 per gallon. The lowest in Baton Rouge at $2.63 per gallon. Evidence from a watershed moment to the battle for civil rights is now available to the public.
Case files, photos, and other records documenting the investigation into the slayings of 3 civil rights.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
Shortly after Seattle area consulting firm Brink and Tiller received a resume from Corey Wilhelm, a college graduate with a Bachelor's of Arts degree in communications, Human Resources Director Robert Bradshaw immediately fast-tracked Wilhelm's application and spoke with The Onion about this exceptional candidate.
Well, the second I saw Corey's resume, I knew I had to send it straight up to our CEO. I mean, we're talking about an applicant who not only got into the University of Washington School of Communication, but also managed to graduate in 4 years with a Bachelor of Arts. This kid's only 22, but according to his resume, he already has experience in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. We're really going to have to move fast to get this guy.
Bradshaw went on to say that company heads could barely believe the candidate had 2 years of experience working at his college newspaper and had even taken a full 4 years of high school Spanish. Since receiving the application, Bradshaw claims the company has made numerous attempts to reach Wilhelm.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. We are kicking off the third hour of a special live Sunday episode. Now, almost all of our Sunday episodes are live.
Special!
But normally, at this time, we would be broadcasting from Fork Fest and or the Porcupine Freedom Festival. The Porcupine Freedom Festival is wrapping up today. It was the last day. If you're only staying in New Hampshire for the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which was a record-attended, what sounded like an amazing iteration of the event.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed that I wasn't able to even make an appearance at it, thanks to the federal government. But nonetheless, it sounded
I don't
awesome.
have that excuse. I also did not make an appearance. I didn't want to drive up there and back twice.
I don't blame you. I would have done it just because I wanted to see how packed the park was. Yeah. Sold out event. I actually had tickets to Porcupine Freedom Festival, so I would have been able to go. But
I also have some responsibilities that need attending to, so
indeed,
I didn't want to forego those responsibilities because I think it's important for you to keep your contracts, to keep your agreements.
It is. Unfortunately, they have forced this agreement upon me, and even though I don't agree to it, if I leave, they're going to kidnap me again, and that's no fun.
Nobody wants that. I mean, no one wants that.
Indeed, nobody wants to get out of jail himself. He's the last guy of the Crypto Six who's currently behind bars. Is still behind bars. You can go to thecrypto6.com to learn more about that. You can go to forkfest.party to learn more about Forkfest. That's what's kicking off tomorrow, although some say it started last Monday. But you can still go to Forkfest. There's no ticket requirement.
Nope.
You just got to get a campsite or an RV site or a motel room from Rogers Campground. I have not heard anything about them being sold out for the next week, so get on up there. It does get busy over the weekend, the Independence Day weekend. So
I don't know if it's current, but there were at least one person, if not two people, trying to, like, who can't make it. They reserved a campsite for whatever reason, and they can't make it, and so they're trying to offload it for like half price. So jump into over at forkfest.party. You can find a link to the Telegram channel. Jump into that thing, and if you're looking for a budget, a budget campsite, you might be able to get a deal from somebody who either has to leave and rented for the whole 2 weeks, or otherwise can't show up, and that kind of a thing.
Let's go. We're going to go to your phone calls, but Captain, you have some statistics of interest. We've been talking about Derek Chauvin and his comparatively light sentence. If you compare his sentence to people like Ross Ulbricht, who are spending 2 life sentences plus 40 years, Derek Chauvin, the cop that killed George Floyd, sentenced to, 22 years with potential to get out after like 15 or something like that?
Yeah.
What are some of the interesting statistics you wanted to share?
Well, we were talking in the previous hour about the prison population, and I mentioned that it was somewhere around 2 million.
That's a lot, yeah.
And in fact, System of a Down, a rock metal-ish kind of band, wrote a song called "The Prison Song," and it is literally all about, hey, they're trying to build a prison for you and me to live in, right?
Yes.
And in the song, they mention that nearly 2 million people have been incarcerated in the prison system since 1985. And that was like
cumulatively.
Well, and so that was my question. It's like, no, it's just
got to be higher than that.
That's what the total prison population has risen to since 1985. It's even higher now. It's 2.19 million prisoners, and that's just as of 2019. So
that's state, federal, plus and jail.
State. Here
anyone
I'll go through
behind bars in the United States.
The United States has the highest. This is from worldpopulationreview.com, by the way. Prison population by state 2021. This actually isn't 2021. The United States has the highest incarceration rate in the world. This is despite the national incarceration rate being at its lowest in 20 years.
Wow, I'm still kind of surprised at that. I'd always qualified whenever I was trying to recall that statistic. I always qualified it as in the Western world or in the developed world, because how do you really know what the incarceration rate in North Korea is? You really don't.
Yeah.
So, and really we wouldn't know for sure about China either. We only know what the states publish. So of the published incarceration rates, it's the highest. And that's still awful.
About this one is shocking for those of you who've never heard it before. About 25%, 25% of the world's total prison population is in the United States.
Shocking.
The United States holds 25% of the world's prisoners.
And a tremendous number of those people are nonviolent, peaceful people who are in jail for things like possession or selling drugs.
Far too many of them.
Or financial quote-unquote crimes.
So this goes on to say the United States, which holds about 2.19 million prisoners as of 2019, that includes 1.38 million in federal and state prisons and 745,200 in jails.
1.3 million, that's the population of New Hampshire. The entire population of New Hampshire is basically imprisoned by the federal government. It's crazy.
So if they built a wall around New Hampshire and chucked everybody in, it would just be New Hampshire?
Let's go to your phone calls and thoughts here. If there's more, you can share that in a moment. I want to get Jerome on the line. Yeah. He's in South Carolina, listening to WTMA in Charleston. Go ahead, Jerome.
Our favorite Trumpster.
Yes, yeah, right. Hey, he's out on the campaign trail again. Oh, I can't wait to hear that speech. Anyway, you were talking about this Derek.
Wait, no, you're gonna watch that speech. You know you are. You're gonna watch it, and then you're gonna call us and tell us how crappy it was.
It's a massive idiot. Okay.
Let's not get sidetracked.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
What were you calling about?
Yeah, look. There's a lawyer. She's a talk show host in Minneapolis, Minnesota. She came on Court TV several times. In fact, the one time she came on during the trial when they were getting ready to reveal the verdict. And she comes on and she says that there was reasonable doubt about whether Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd. Okay, reasonable doubt. The minute they read that verdict, this woman disappeared from that show. Court TV, Vinny Napolitano, and I haven't seen her since. Okay, this woman is a disgusting piece of crap, and her name's Rashini Rajkumar. Okay, She's of Indian descent, and she hates black people. Okay? Because there's no damn way somebody can watch that video and talk about a reasonable doubt. And Derek Chauvin's mom, I said, well, oi, you can see where he gets it from. She's an idiot. Agreeing, she'll always believe in his innocence. He didn't have to kill that man. He didn't have to do that.
No.
He enjoyed doing it. He enjoyed doing it because
and he thought he was so invincible that he could do it in front of a bunch of people in broad daylight in front of video cameras. That's how much hubris this guy had. And he's not that different from plenty of other cops out there. The only difference is he didn't get away with it, and plenty of other cops get away with murdering not just black people, but all kinds of people of all different descents all across the United States.
And these cops get high on their power.
They do.
They get high on their power, and they miss it when it's gone, when they're on vacation or whatever. I can't wait to get back on the job.
Was 18 years as a cop. 19 years gone, dissolved. And he ain't going to make it in prison, man. Somebody's going to get him.
Oh, that's if they put him in population, Jerome. I suspect he's going to be not allowed to fraternize with the other prisoners. I suspect they're going to protect him.
Fraternize, huh? That's what you call it?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to let him out. I don't think they're going to be. I think he's going to be held in solitary confinement because they are going to protect him. They do not want to have a cop die in prison. They get special treatment in there, and you know what? He's going to want it. He's going to demand solitary confinement because he is afraid of what will happen to him behind bars.
He's not he don't look like such a tough guy now, huh? And that woman that murdered the man in his own apartment, and all she got was 10 years. And then his idiot brother goes
he's
up
talking
and
about
tells
the other cop. He's talking about the other cop who. I'm sorry, hang on a minute, Jerome. He's talking about the other cop, the lady who said she thought she was going into her apartment, but went into the apartment next door and killed the guy.
Shot the guy.
Yeah, that's what he's mentioning when he says that other lady who killed the other guy in the apartment. I think that's what he's talking about. Yeah. Is that right, Jerome?
What the hell kind of crack pipe was she on?
I don't know. She was pretty messed up, though.
In his own damn apartment, man. And all she got was 10 years, and she's on the witness stand crying. He ain't coming back. He ain't coming. He didn't have to die. He didn't have to do that.
Jerome, thanks for the call, man. I do appreciate hearing from you here tonight. There's definitely a sentencing discrepancy. There's a charging discrepancy, really. Most of these cops don't even get charged. I mean, the fact that any of them have been charged at all is a miracle in these cases. Thank you for the call tonight. I appreciate it. The number is 603-283-6160 if you want to join us. Speaking of prison, what about Chinese prisons for the Uyghurs and putting up videos online? We'll tell you about it coming up.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in changing that. When Rear Admiral Terrence Murphy is given governorship of a backwater system, a risk-free path to wealth and power is his for the taking. But Murphy is a man of honor, duty, and responsibility. He intends to stop the killing, whatever the cost. Governor, by David Weber and Richard Fox, from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com. You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up whatever you want here. We are kicking off, well, I guess not kicking off, but we're continuing here, the live special edition of the show.
Do it live!
The intermission version between the Porcupine Freedom Festival and Fork Fest, which will start tomorrow for some people. A lot of people are going to show up at Rogers Campground tomorrow. I know Vincent, former co-host here on Free Talk Live, the host of Questioning Authority and the new Shire Free Media Show. Yep. He's going to head up tomorrow, and I'm sure he's not the only one. There are some people who are only going to the campground for Fork Fest next week. Some people are leaving the campground, the Porcupine Freedom Festival. There's a lot of photos and goodbyes and things like that online. It sounds like people had a blast. A lot of first timers
sure does.
Were there this year, and that's true of the Porcupine Freedom Festival every year. There's always a lot of newbies.
That dude, the Dumpster, made it.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, for
cool.
At least a couple of days anyway.
The guy that came up last year for a visit and co-hosted with us one night. Good guy. He wrote me in jail, by the way, the Dumpster.
Yep.
So if you missed out this year, it was a sold-out event, the Porcupine Freedom Festival. The Fork Fest is not sold out. There are no tickets to sell out. The only thing that could sell out would be the park, and the park has not sold out. So you still have room to come up. If it's not too late. If you want to come up for the weekend or as many days as you can, people are going to be hanging out there throughout the week. Some of them staying on from the Porcupine Freedom Festival, others just coming up. Check out forkfest.party. You can learn more about the event there.
The Big Kahuna is supposed to make an appearance as well.
Oh, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So yeah, get on over there if you have the freedom to move, unlike me, you should do it. You'll have a good time.
Yes, enjoy it while Ian can't.
I will enjoy as vicariously through you guys as possible, and those broadcasts are expected to return tomorrow, barring any other technical difficulties. Coming up, we'll get into the YouTube censorship, which is getting worse. They're now targeting channels that are critical of the Chinese government. So you thought it was bad here in the United States with them back in the state government, the federal government on things like COVID crackdowns and anybody that's, opposes the official state CDC guidelines, etc. We've had our channel restricted there on YouTube multiple times. It's I believe I heard Arya saying the other night, Free Talk Live channel is on its last legs. Like if there's one more spanking that YouTube delivers. So we're no longer uploading new videos to that channel. Just on the expectation that one of them is going to get pulled.
We were streaming, I think, to Arya's YouTube channel for a minute.
As I understand it, that's true. But I'm talking about the Free Talk Live radio channel on YouTube. That is on its last legs, and that's because of its very restrictive policies regarding you either agree with what the government says on COVID or you're not allowed to be here, basically.
It's misleading medical we're stating an opinion. We're not, that's not...
An opinion shared by other doctors, by the way. It's not like, we're just shouting in the darkness with this opinion and no one else holds this opinion.
And as time goes on, more and more studies are released showing, well, we were kind of right,
Oh, very much
so. The masks didn't help and the lockdowns were horrendous. And in fact, the suicide rates skyrocketed. All these things that we talked about here on Free Talk Live are true.
So we can talk more about what's happening with Chinese critics there on YouTube, channels that are critical of the Chinese government and how they're handling the Uyghur population there, which is basically incarcerating and probably torturing them. But let's go first to David in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, David.
Yeah, listening on KIVA, Kiva, the Rock of Talk in Albuquerque, New Mexico. You're also on Sunday. Yes, and you're also on Sunday nights as well on KENN in Farmington, New Mexico.
Indeed.
The latest round of news on this government in New Mexico on the CYFD deletion of public records, unlawful deletion of public records and destruction of evidence. Latest news came out on Friday. They're reading from the LA, or looking at the LA Daily Post, the little LA, not big LA, little LA being Los Alamos in New Mexico, where the Manhattan Project was headquartered. The lawyers representing the unlawfully fired whistleblowers were talking to the paper. The main points of this case being that these people complained of problems at the agency, CYFD, in New Mexico. Oh, and let me interject. The reason that I pay attention to this case is because for the last 14 years, I've been screaming about issues with the state of New Mexico Children and Family courts and other places in the state government, and I don't necessarily carry a lot of weight. But now this legal case is going to demonstrate that many of the things that I complained of are now going to be proven in a court of law by these people, which will validate what I'm saying. But anyway, so
but will any of them ever spend any time behind bars?
Well, we'll find out. At a minimum, hopefully they'll get fired, and these people who were damaged will get compensated. So we'll take what we can get. Anything is better than the nothing that I've received so far. But so these people, they were fired because they blew the whistle, and the bullet points here, what they were reporting that CYFD was using the signal messaging device to automatically delete all correspondence.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of every 24 hours, and that they were doing the bulk of their communications using the signal device.
And these are internal department communications that should have been subject to Freedom of Information Act, meaning that if they were doing it the old-fashioned way, they would be sending like an email or something, and that's all on the record. If you want to, file a Freedom of Information request to get the emails, in theory, they should be able to give them to you. But to avoid that ever happening, they were using Signal, which, as you say, can be set to self-destruct.
Right, and the whistleblowers here testify in that area that they were, the two of them, they're a husband and wife, and they both worked for the agency in different areas of the agency, and they both reported that they were party to conversations that happened over the signal about such things as legislative action that the agency was attempting to get passed into law or have effect on, as well as millions of state dollars being spent on computer equipment, et cetera, that was amongst the things that were deleted. And now citizens trying to influence their legislators would be interested in those materials, and so those were items that were deleted. Failure of CYFD. Yeah. Now, bullet point, failure of CYFD to properly manage a multi-million-dollar comprehensive child welfare information system project, including non-competitive procurement of this computer system from an out-of-state company named Binti, B-I-N-T-I, at...
No, wait a minute. You're saying nepotism was used by state actors?
Whoa.
I'm shocked.
Yeah. They didn't follow, there's a guideline for seeking bids when you're spending taxpayer money, and they did not follow those guidelines.
They gave it to one of their buddies.
Yeah, at the recommendation of the guy in charge, Blaylock.
Well, one thing's for sure, and thank you, David, for the call tonight. Even if they do clean the house and get rid of all these corrupt bureaucrats, it'll just be replaced by more.
Yeah. I mean, the system itself is what makes these people do these insane things. Now, a person has to have a disposition for that in order to be attracted to such a position in the first place. But let's not give them an institution with which to outlive their fantasies of evil.
There's a monopoly system that we're all forced to pay for, and so they do whatever they want. Every now and then they get caught, and then nothing changes. We're coming up. Free Talk Live. Thanks, David.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
On March 16th this year, government task forces violently raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested. 4 were released on bail conditions, but Ian Freeman was held hostage for 69 days. Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, remains captive. We've consulted attorneys who say no crime even appears to have been committed, but that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, resulting in a violation of our and your First Amendment rights. You can visit thecrypto6.com to help, but as importantly, contact other media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for cryptocurrency use well into your future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The number if you want to join in here to take control of the airwaves, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. With you here in the studio, it's Ian.
And some beardo.
Oh, hey, I want to let you know about LibertyStickers.com. If you want to reach people with the ideas of liberty, you can do it with a bumper sticker. And they've got a bunch of them for you to choose from over at LibertyStickers.com. They've got witty, poignant, pithy, and downright bombastic stickers that you can slap on the back of your car, your bicycle, your computer, wherever it is you put things that are fun or funny or poignant. LibertyStickers.com.
You can slap on your mom's butt while she wanders around Walmart.
That's a strange thing to advocate, Captain, but I don't know what your relationship with your mom is, but that might cross a line for some people.
I just try to be creative with my Liberty sticker placement, so I may have slapped one on your mom's, but not yours.
Hey,
but like
whatever
any of the
floats your
listeners,
boat.
You know what I mean? You don't know. You don't know what I'm doing.
What my mom does is none of my business.
I constantly make jokes about the proverbial your mother, right? Not your mother specifically, but that's what your mom said, right? That kind of a thing.
Check out LibertyStickers.com. And by the way, they can do custom stuff. So if they don't have the thing that you want,
good work too.
They really do. And that's where we got the Free Talk Live stickers and the LRN.FM stickers. If you're going up to Forkfest, stop by the broadcast booth at RV46 and grab yourself a Free Talk Live bumper sticker. We've got them up there.
Get you a sticker.
At least I wasn't told that they ran out during Porkfest, so there's probably still plenty left. So head on over and you can see the quality of the stickers from LibertyStickers.com. So, wanted to talk about YouTube. I saw this story just a couple of days. Looks like it came out 2 days ago. Reuters reporting a human rights group that attracted millions of views on YouTube to testimonies from people who say their families have disappeared in China's Xinjiang region is moving its videos to a little-known service called Odyssey.
Oh, the library folks.
Which is awesome news. After some were taken down by the Google-owned streaming giant, according to Reuters. They found some sources saying this. The group credited by international organizations like Human Rights Watch, I've heard of them, for drawing attention to human rights violations in Xinjiang has come under fire from Kazakh authorities since its founding in 2017. Serikazan Bilash, a Xinjiang-born Kazakh activist who co-founded the channel and has been arrested multiple times for his activism, said government advisors told him 5 years ago to stop using the word genocide to describe the situation in Xinjiang.
What would you call it then? What term would you use?
Loving interrogation of suspects.
Extermination, perhaps?
Yeah.
There are better words, I guess.
An order that he assumed came from pressure from China's government on Kazakhstan. They're just facts, Balash said to Reuters in a phone interview, referring to the content of Atagirt's videos. The people giving the testimonies are talking about their loved ones. Atagirt Kazakh Human Rights Channel has published nearly 11,000 videos on YouTube, totaling over 120 million views since 2017. Thousands of which feature people speaking to a camera about relatives they say have disappeared without a trace in China's Xinjiang region, where UN experts and rights group estimate over 1 million people have been detained. We're not arresting you, sir. It's just a detention. Well, how long are you detaining me? We don't know. As long as we want to.
We'll let you know when we arrest you.
In recent years, according to the story here at Reuters, on June 15th, the channel was blocked for violating YouTube's guidelines. Which guidelines? According to a screenshot seen by Reuters after 12 of its videos were reported, and we don't know by whom, for breaching its, quote, cyberbullying and harassment policy.
You know who the biggest bully on the planet is?
The government.
That's right.
Channel's administrators had appealed the blocking of all 12 videos between the months of April and June, with some being reinstated, but YouTube, of course, didn't provide an explanation as to why the others were kept out of public view, according to the folks telling this to Reuters. Following inquiries from Reuters as to why the channel was removed, YouTube then restored it, explaining that they'd received multiple so-called strikes for videos which contained people holding up ID cards to prove they were related to the missing, violating a YouTube policy which prohibits personally identifiable information from appearing in its content.
Why would you... Okay.
They reinstated the channel on June 18th, but asked Audigert to blur the IDs. So, when pressured by the media in this case, YouTube reversed its penalty here. But prior to that, they were doing somebody's bidding.
Ever since Google bought YouTube, YouTube has just become the world's suckiest platform. I mean,
yeah,
I can't even watch the thing. It is horrible. If you log out of any of your Google accounts at all, clear your cache and cookies, and you just go to like the YouTube page as if it's a new
you
computer
get the
or whatever,
default recommendations.
It is horrible. The videos there are all, none of them are done by like an individual person. They're all
corporate.
Super produced and a lot of money put into it, and it's all, highly advertised. It is not. YouTube used to be such a boon to humanity.
Yeah, it really was.
A
really
learning
was.
place for everybody to learn from each other. And now it is just, it is ugly.
Audigert's hesitant to comply, according to the channel's administrator, with the blurring request. Now, it's not a request when they say, if you don't do this, we're going to delete your channel again. So that's not a request. The channel's administrator concerned that doing so would jeopardize the trustworthiness of the videos. There was a reason why they put this information there. Number one, the person consented to it. It wasn't like they were just, it wasn't like they were going to some hidden secret files of these people's IDs and showing them without the knowledge of the people in the video.
Yeah.
I could understand. I could get why that rule was created, right? Like, you don't want somebody to be doxxed publicly who's not a public figure or whatever, although I imagine they'd apply it to like the governor of the the state as well. But
if you voluntarily bust out your ID to prove that you are who you say you are in a YouTube
in front of a video camera.
In front of a video camera, I mean, that to me lends credence and authenticity to whatever that person is trying to say. Say, look, I am related to this person. Here is what the government recognizes as my official ID.
Now, this is the best part of the story. Fearing further blocking by YouTube, it's probably only a matter of time, they decided to back up their content to Odyssey, a website built on the blockchain protocol library, LBRY, designed to give creators more control. And so far, about 975 of their, 1,400 or so videos? Sorry, 11,000 videos. Got a little bit of work to do. 975 of their videos have been backed up successfully to Odyssey. So they give the link here, and I will post this on our social media so you can see the whole story. Click over their link, but I'm sure if you search for Audigert, Atajurt, you'll find this channel on Odyssey.
And just as a piece of advice, because I've been doing media for quite some time, whether it's audio or even doing this show and my podcast that I had before, keep your originals. Find a place to store them. Get yourself a hard drive. Keep your originals. If you make a video and you upload it to, the YouTube or anywhere else on the internet, keep your original file somewhere.
I had that, and the FBI took that hard drive.
Yeah. You at least tried.
Yeah. Most people that won't have that problem, but we did. Anyway, so they backed us up to Library, and I think it's worth saying Library is an amazing platform.
It really is.
That is really noteworthy because it's uncensorable. Okay, so if you don't like something on Library, sorry, don't watch it.
Click to the next video.
Yeah.
Like an adult.
Right. This is an amazing platform that allows creators to create without question, without some axe hanging over their head, And does that mean you might find some offensive things there? You better believe it. And that's wonderful. That's what is awesome about freedom of speech, is that free speech is meant to protect the ugly stuff, the outrageous stuff, the controversial stuff, the stuff no one in the government, for instance, wants you to see. Bonnie and I were looking for some videos the other night, and she's like, I can't find them on YouTube. I bet they're on Library. And she went over there, and there they were.
Boom. Nice.
So this is going to be something that I think we're going to see over the next year or two, is a transition, because a lot of these stories that we've seen about YouTube taking down channels have been mentioning Odyssey and Library. Now, Odyssey's like the front end for Library. They're the same thing, basically. We can talk more about it coming up here. It's a way you can protect your content as well, and it's free to use it. It's amazing. It is Free Talk Live. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government. The real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. Moments remain here. Enough time for you if you call in now. The number is 603-283-6160. We're talking about the YouTube takedown of a channel that is critical of the Chinese government. A channel run by a guy in Kazakhstan. So that's why he hasn't been killed yet by the Chinese government. However, his government gang has told him that he better be careful. He's under threat from them. According to the story here at Reuters.
So for acting, is he a reporter by profession? I mean, even if he's not, it doesn't matter. He's reporting. So that makes him a reporter. I just don't know if he is, is he affiliated with somebody? Is he employed by somebody? These are the questions that I have.
There's an agency. They've been cited by Human Rights Watch and in some of their reports.
Or is he just some guy uploading
Kazakh
to YouTube?
Human it's called Atajurt Kazakh Human Rights. That's the group.
Okay.
And then Serkazan Balash is the Xinjiang-born Kazakh activist. So Xinjiang is the province.
So it's a human rights group, and this guy is part of that group.
Right. Now, he was born in the Xinjiang Chinese province, which is the northwestern province that borders Kazakhstan. But he lives in Kazakhstan, apparently, because otherwise he probably would be dead by now or in one of these camps. Although the government of Kazakhstan gang told him 5 years ago, advisors, they gave him some advice saying stop using the word genocide to describe the situation in Xinjiang in his videos. He uploaded a bunch of these videos to YouTube, thousands of them, and had 12 of them blocked earlier this year. When Reuters went to YouTube and asked about it, YouTube said, we'll restore this channel, but we've received strikes on these videos for people holding up identity cards because they were claiming that they were related to relatives who'd gone missing in the Xinjiang province, and so they were holding up their ID cards to prove that they were who they said they were, that they weren't just, propaganda, right? Like you could trace this person, talk to them yourself, and find out their story.
Right.
YouTube says, this violates our policy about personally identifiable information from appearing in our content. And they struck the videos for quote-unquote cyberbullying and harassment. Now they've reinstated them on June 18th, but asked the man to blur the IDs. He's hesitant to comply. Instead, whether he's done that or not, I don't know. But what he did do was he uploaded his videos to Odyssey. Now, I should spell this. I didn't do this last time.
Right.
ODYSEE.com. That's unfortunate spelling for radio because you always have to spell it for people to get it. But it's the new sort of front end for the library system, which is also spelled LBRY.
Right.
These are blockchain-based, decentralized system to allow anyone, anywhere on the planet to upload whatever content they want to with no gatekeeper.
Yep.
There's nothing that the library people can do. Government goons can come to library, and they did, by the way, after this studio was raided in March.
Yeah.
Curiously, like within 2 weeks, the SEC targeted library, which also is run by a liberty activist here in New Hampshire. His name's Jeremy Kaufman.
Yep.
Great activist. He was actually at the Porcupine Freedom Festival doing some speechifying on stage, and they came after him. Now, he didn't get arrested, but they are suing library as an organization, claiming that the library token, which is used within the system, is a quote-unquote security, and they're trying to destroy his business.
Are they going to go after all the video games that also have like in-game tokens and stuff like that?
That's a good question. They're trying to destroy his life and destroy his business as a result of this. So there's a huge attack on crypto.
I get it. Yes, there is a huge attack on crypto. And more specifically, there's a huge attack on activists who have taken a stance on cryptocurrency.
As administrators were removing content, they received another series of automated messages from YouTube. So as the channel administrators, the guy that runs it, stating the videos in question had been removed from public view, this time because of concerns they might promote violent criminal organizations. The spokesman of Atajurt, Serkazan Bilash, says, quote, there is another excuse every day. I never trusted YouTube, but we're not afraid anymore because we're backing ourselves up with library. The most important thing is our material safety, unquote. Balash, who fled to Istanbul last year after suffering, he's not in Kazakh, after suffering repeated threats and intimidation from the Kazakh authorities when he refused to stop working with the organization, said his equipment, including hard disks and mobile phones, were confiscated multiple times in Kazakhstan, making YouTube the only place where their entire video collection was stored. So he also had backups until they got confiscated stolen
by the man.
YouTube said the messages relating to promoting violent criminal organizations were automated and not related to the creator's content, but the videos were being kept private to allow administrators to make edits. What does that mean? What are they alleging? It's not even clear.
I don't want YouTube making edits to my videos if I'm an uploader.
UN experts and rights groups estimate over 1 million people, mainly Uyghurs who are Muslim, and other Muslim minorities have been detained in a vast system of camps in Xinjiang. And which is why I go back when you were talking about the numbers from the government imprisoning here in the U.S. It's like, well, we still don't really know how many people they have behind bars in China. You can only go with what the government says, and they're not really acknowledging these things existing. Many former inmates have said they were subject to ideological training and abuse in the camps. China denies all accusation of abuse. YouTube in recent years has restricted more content and increasing scrutiny on online cyberbullying, misinformation, and hate speech. The policies have ensnared many channels, including those of far-right commentators, forcing them to seek haven on social media services such as Parler that tout more openness. However, Parler is a centralized platform.
It is.
And as we discovered last year, which anyone who, even glanced at Parler should have known, it's run by a company that is centralized and runs a server and has total authority over that server. Library is a protocol.
Right.
So in theory, if the library company were to shut down, library should continue to run.
Right.
Because it is being run like the Bitcoin protocol on thousands of computers all around the world.
We will at some point see a slew of these sort of self-perpetuating or self-supporting things occur with the blockchain. And I hope that Odyssey and Library are part of that sort of, first wave of these things that we see.
It's taking the power of blockchain and applying it to media.
Right.
And it's awesome.
And if that does, I predict it is going to happen. I just, I wish it would hurry up.
Yeah. Well, it's here. I mean, this thing is here now, and you can just go and download their client. It's available for cell phones. It's available for your laptop or desktop computer. And basically, any video you download, you become part of the network that's protecting that video. Yep. You hold that thing on your hard drive, and as long as you and other people are holding that video, it can never be removed. It can never be taken down. Autojurt representatives fear pro-China groups who deny that human rights abuses exist in Xinjiang are using YouTube's reporting features to remove their content by reporting it en masse, triggering an automatic block. So as long as there's a handful of counter activists, likely employed by the Chinese government, that are flagging your videos, they're going to get taken down, and all you can do is beg YouTube for a review and hope that they rule in your favor. But if it happens enough times, your channel gets banned permanently. Representatives shared videos on WhatsApp and Telegram with Reuters, which they say describe how to report Autojurt's YouTube videos. They also point to multiple YouTube channels containing videos of the founder's face superimposed onto animals like monkeys and pigs, which they said were denigrating of his character and work. YouTube said channels are always welcome to move to alternatives. Its policies bar directing abuse of attention by posting non-public personal information such as names and addresses. The service makes exceptions to some rules for videos that are educational, documentary, or scientific, but Autojurt's videos didn't meet these requirements to a sufficient level, according to YouTube. So the fact that this guy is documenting what's happening to people whose family members have gone missing in the area of the Xinjiang province of China, mysteriously, the fact that he's done this documentation over a period of years and has multiple people who've done this, that's not good enough for YouTube, they say. The fix is in here.
Definitely the fix is in. They're covering up literal genocide. Like, there is a genocide happening here, people, and all of the media, all of your mainstream media, completely ignoring it.
Yeah, as YouTube basically gobbles the Chinese government's genitals.
Yes.
In this case. Quote, "We welcome responsible efforts," this is YouTube, "to document important human rights cases around the world," said the company. "We recognize that the intention of these videos was not to maliciously reveal P11 and are working with Autojurt Kazakh to explain our policies. Note, They're not working with them to restore their videos.
Right.
They're explaining their policies to this channel. So look, if you want to be on our platform, you'll obey and you'll do what we say, and you won't be able to produce the videos that you've wanted to produce. You won't be able to out these Chinese abuses in the way that you've wanted to, because we don't want to lose China. Frankly, if we're being honest, would say YouTube, if they were being honest, and they're not, we don't want to lose the Chinese market. We'll do whatever Chinese government, tells us to do, because there's a lot of ad money that we can be making there in China. So we'll just obey, and we'll help the Chinese government cover up what's happening in their province to the Muslims.
It's a sad state of affairs.
Get over to Library, get over to Odyssey, lbry.com, odysee.com. Check that out. If you got content, you should get it up there as soon as possible.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can